What do you think? Do you think Autopilot's stopping this car or the driver? Okay, so this intro clip that I used has been going around on the internet a bit, and I don't believe Autopilot is what stopped this car, and I'm going to go over why real quick. The first and biggest thing is that Autopilot cannot stop or react to stop signs or stoplights as of yet. Unless there had been a car in front of this Tesla, it would have just blown right through this light. So the fact that it stopped at a red light leads me to believe that Autopilot's not on. That's the first thing. The second thing is Autopilot engages when it has something that it recognizes to follow. So that follow could be a vehicle in front of it, or it could be some lanes that the car recognizes. Once the car does start to move forward, I suppose that the car could recognize the white lines used for the pedestrian crosswalk, but I can't imagine that the driver turned on Autopilot the moment that he started to drive. And honestly, with my limited experience with Autopilot, I don't believe that it would have recognized those lines as a lane. And even if it did, I doubt that it would have recognized it that quickly. I'm just going to preface this by saying, obviously, I'm a huge Tesla fan, but I see some issues here, and I'm going to just call it as I see it. So, here goes. First, let's start off by showing how Tesla kind of shot themselves in the foot with using the name Autopilot. The name in and of itself sounds like the car is going to be self-driving. When you look at what Autopilot originally came from, it's a system used to control the trajectory of an aircraft without constant hands-on control by a human operator being required. Then when you go to Tesla's page, first thing, full self-driving. Okay, granted, full self-driving hardware on all cars. But nobody's going to think full self-driving hardware. Everybody's going to see full self-driving. And then the next thing you see here is a video of a car driving itself. They talk about power increase, enhanced autopilot, auto steer, all these things, full self-driving capability. It's no wonder that people hear Tesla Autopilot and automatically assume that the car drives itself. And then it says, please note that self-driving functionality is dependent upon extensive software validation and regulatory approval, which may vary widely by jurisdiction. I won't claim to know what the solution would have been or a better way to do this, but I will say that I think that they could have done something better. Almost without fail, every time somebody gets into my car, the first thing they ask is, oh, so this car drives itself? To which I have to respond, no, this car was made before Autopilot hardware came out, and even then, Teslas aren't full self-driving yet. Okay, enough complaining from me, let's get into it. Let's take a look at what Tesla's Autopilot hardware looks like. From Tesla's website, you can see exactly what suite of cameras and sensors they have. They have a total of 8 cameras, 12 ultrasonic sensors, and 1 radar. There are 3 cameras in the front. The first is a forward-facing camera with a 60-meter view. There's another one for a 150-meter view, and then one last one for 250-meter view. Then you've got the 2 forward-facing side cameras that are located in the B pillars. Those can both see 80 meters apiece. Rear-facing side cameras as well. You've got 2 of those, and those can both see 100 meters. You have 1 rear view camera that can see 50 meters. That is the same as your backup camera. And then you have 12 ultrasonic sensors that are surrounding the entire car that can each see up to 8 meters. And lastly, the radar that can see up to 160 meters. And in the end, the car can see something similar to this. But hardware is only as good as its counterpart software. I think this is one thing that Tesla really has working for them, is the fact that with their own fleet, they can do software updates as much or as little as they'd like to. So these cars are constantly collecting information. They collect data on how a human reacts to a certain situation of how the car is driving. They also collect information about how the driver drives in certain situations, even with autopilot not enabled. This whole fleet of Teslas really is collecting mass amounts of data so that they can fine-tune it and make the cars better. Here's an example of something that will get better with time, but as of right now doesn't do very good. What happens here is autopilot can no longer see that lane for one reason or another. It's trying to figure out the road, but it doesn't know what to do. So I'm just going to keep on drifting to the right,
Now it's going to the right. I just took over there.
The car could no longer see the middle yellow lines, so it started to drift, trying to find the curb to the right, and in the end started veering way too close to the right for me to be comfortable, so I had to take over. One thing to keep in mind is that the system is designed for freeway and highway use, so using it on a back road like this really isn't what it's intended for as of right now. One area where Autopilot really shines is on the freeway. It does a fantastic job of seeing where other cars are, how fast they're going, how it needs to adjust its speed in relation to those other cars surrounding you. It makes freeway driving so much better than just driving normally.
All that was done by the car?
All that. Yeah, I didn't do anything.
Nice.
So look what happens. You can tell that the Tesla autopilot system has recognized that this other car is getting in front of me. It starts to slow down so the gap between us doesn't get too small. As the car gets into the next lane, the Tesla starts to speed itself back up to the maximum speed I've set. Now regarding nighttime, Autopilot does just fine. Here are two clips of me driving the exact same route. Personally feel like Autopilot actually did slightly better at nighttime. I just felt like it was doing a better job of staying in the middle of the lane. It didn't take turns as delayed as I felt like the daytime one was. But here is just enough for you to be able to take a look and see for yourself how you feel it did. I tried to line them up the best I could. In the end, I think Autopilot best use is on a road trip or anytime you're going to be on the freeway for a while or stop and go traffic. But when it comes to full self-driving, I don't believe that Tesla is anywhere near where they claim to be. And don't get me wrong, I believe that Tesla is vastly superior to their competitors as of right now. They simply have a lot of work to do to actually achieving full self-driving. All things considered, they have a lot of progress to make, but I also feel like with enough cars coming out and if they have enough people programming and doing some fleet learning, working on their neural network, that really in the end they could make a lot of progress really quickly. But as of right now, I would give them a 3 out of 10 when it comes to full self-driving. There are a few things to keep in mind though when it comes to full autonomy, as there are 6 levels of autonomy. There's 0 through 5, 5 being no drivers required, and 0 being there's absolutely 0 driving assistance. When it comes down to it, on the freeway, a Tesla does level 3 just fine, but on side roads, I would be hard pressed to say that it even does level 1. When I bought my car though, I was trying to get the cheapest Tesla that I could, but having all the things that I wanted, which really was, I wanted one that was an 85 kilowatt hour battery. I didn't want to have a 60 because we do a lot of traveling. I didn't want to spend the extra time charging. But now that I look back on it and now that I've driven so many other Teslas, the one thing that I wish that I had that I don't is Autopilot. I don't care for the performance package. I don't care for the upgraded sound system. I don't care for the weather package. None of that matters to me. But I do wish that I'd sprung for getting Autopilot. So when I bought my car, the next closest priced car that had Autopilot versus mine was about $8,000 if I remember correctly. Now if you look at them, these are the options that I was looking for when I got my car. And you can see that even adding in Autopilot changes the price. So here I searched for 85 kilowatt hour battery with 60,000 miles on it or less. The cheapest one's going for 37,000. Now if we choose Autopilot Hardware, so 42,000, so only $5,000. Is Autopilot worth $5,000? Maybe to some people. At this point, would I pay $5,000 for it? Probably not. But every time I take a road trip, I do wish that I had it. Whether or not you want to spring for the $5,000 difference to get Autopilot is totally up to you. But before you make that decision, I'd highly recommend taking a car for a spin and trying out Autopilot and see what it's like, see what you think about it. I know that I was skeptic before the first time I rode in one with Autopilot, and now that I've done it, I've been pleasantly surprised. I've heard people say things such as, you're already spending $75,000 on the car, why not spend an extra $5,000? But $5,000 is still $5,000. Doesn't matter how much the car cost. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's anything you want to see in the future, let me know. And we'll see you in the next one.